Welcome to D5 presentation. My name is B. Mutale, and in this presentation we are going to look at the following. Number one, we'll look at introduction to cost accounting. After that, we will look at the topics that you are expected to cover as a student. After that, we'll look at the topic weightings. After that, I'll look at the exam format. And after that, we'll look at the recommendations. And after that, we'll be able to look at the approach to the paper. And we end by looking at the exam answering techniques. So those are the things that I'm going to learn you through in this presentation. Okay, let's begin with the introduction. On this introduction, I'm going to just quickly explain what cost accounting is. And cost accounting, we basically define it as a system of collecting, analyzing, and recording of costs associated with business operations, which basically means that in this paper, you are required to understand that costs needed to be ascertained for the company to be able to determine the selling price, to be able to determine the cost of a department, to be able to determine the value of stocks. So it is important, please, that we understand what cost accounting is all about. That is very important for every candidate to know. Okay, now I want to quickly run you through the topics that you are expected to cover in this DA5. And the topics are as follows. Number one, you must know introduction to cost accounting. Number two, you must be able to go through what we call cost classification. Number three, you must cover what we call cost behavior. Number four, you must look at material costing. Number five, we must be able to look at labor costing. Number six, you must cover the overheads. Number seven, you should be able to understand what we call standard costing and variance analysis. After that, you must be able to explain the costing bookkeeping. So those are some of the key topics that must be covered in this chapter. Now, I want to quickly just look at what we expect from the students on those topics that I've quickly mentioned. Let me begin with the introduction to cost accounting. On the introduction to cost accounting, we expect a student to be able to explain what cost accounting is. We expect a student to also be able to differentiate between management accounting and financial accounting. For cost accounting is part of management accounting. So it's always important that we are able to differentiate between cost accounting, or rather management accounting, and financial management. So on the introduction, as a student, those are the key areas that you should focus on. Moving to chapter 2, which is cost classification. We expect a student to be able to distinguish between different or various cost classifications. So as a student, you should be able to distinguish the cost classifications. That is what we are interested in. Moving to chapter 3, which is cost behavior. On cost behavior, we expect a student to be able to explain how costs do behave. For example, how do variable costs behave? How do fixed costs behave? So we should be able, as a student, to explain the behavior of those different costs. On the same topic, you should be able to analyze the total costs into what we call variable costs and fixed costs using different accounting methods, such as the ILO method and regression analysis. Although in this paper, we do focus so much on the ILO method and not the regression analysis. That is what you are expected to cover on chapter 3. Then after that, you move to chapter 4, where we expect you to cover what we call material costing. And on material costing, we are very much interested in the inventory valuation methods, such as the first in, first out, the last in, first out, and the average cost, known as the AVCO. And apart from that, on the same, the student should be able also to explain the economic order quantity and how it is calculated. That is very key. And the last part you must basically focus on that particular topic is the inventory valuation methods. That is, please, the things that you are expected to cover on chapter 4. Moving to chapter 5, which is labor costing. On labor costing, we are just interested in a student knowing how to determine how much an employee will get at the end of a particular job or at the end of the month. That is, if someone is employed on permanent basis, or it's a piecework, or it's a casual basis. So we expect a student to be able to determine the amount that will be paid to the employee. And moving to chapter 6, which is overheads. We need to understand again there that overheads are just indirect costs, and every company will incur those indirect costs. So it is important for a student to be able to determine how much overhead the company has incurred in producing a product or in rendering the services. That is very key. So on that topic, you should be able to cover the apportionment, the reapportionment, and you should be able to know how to determine the overhead absorption rate. That is what we cover on chapter 6. On chapter 7, a student should look at marginal costing, absorption costing, and activity-based costing. The marginal costing and absorption costing, those we call them traditional costing methods. And those methods, we use them to determine the cost of a product. And in exam, you expect a lot of questions on that particular part. The activity-based costing, it's a modern technique. And it is a technique that a lot of companies are currently using. So it's important for a student to make sure that they know how to determine the cost of a product using those different costing methods. Those are the things, please, you are expected to cover on chapter 7. I'll move you to chapter 8. On chapter 8, we expect a student to cover what we call standard costing and variance analysis. One of the those important topics that you must cover as a student. I'm saying that is a must-to-do topic because that topic keeps appearing in exam. And on that topic, we expect a student to be able to define what standard costing is. We expect a student to be able to explain the different types of standard costing. We expect a student to be able to calculate the variances. Now, on the variances, it's not just the issue of a student calculating the variances required, but it is also important that a student is able to state whether the variance is favorable or adverse. And we are going to talk about those things later on as we move. That is chapter 8. Then moving to chapter 9. On chapter 9, we expect a student to look at cost applications. And on cost application, we have what we call job costing, we have batch costing, we have process costing, we have service costing. So all those we expect a student to cover. And lastly, which is chapter 10, we expect a student to do what we call cost bookkeeping. So all the topics that you are expected to cover in this syllabus are just the 10 chapters. So we only have 10 chapters that we expect you to cover. And looking at these 10 chapters, I do believe and trust that a student can cover all these 10 chapters in 1 month and a week, where you just do, of course, 2 topics in a week. And you'll be done with the syllabus and leave enough time for revisions. Okay, let me quickly now move you to what we call topic weighting. On the topic weighting, we are going to look at how the topics are graded, which is very important for every student, because when you are studying a topic, you must know, when you are going through this DA5, you must know, of course, the topic where you should spend more time. So the weightings are very important, and all this should be done before exam. Immediately you are starting to prepare for this paper, you should be able to go through this topic weightings. So I'll quickly run you through the topic weightings that are in DA5. Introduction to cost accounting. Introduction to cost accounting, it's only given 5%. So out of the entire syllabus, the introduction to cost accounting, it's only 5%. Number 2, it's cost classification. Cost classification has also been given 5%. Cost behavior. Cost behavior also it's 5%. Material costing, you expect to have 10% there. Labor costing, we have 10%. Absorption, marginal and activity based, that has been given 15%. The next topic weighting is on the application. Okay. On application of cost information, that has been given 25%. And the next topic, which is standard costing, that has been given 10%. And the last topic, which is cost bookkeeping, that has been given 5%. Now, looking at all these topics and the weightings that have been given on each topic, you can see that the topic with the highest weighting is the cost application, where you cover the job, the batch costing, the process costing, the contract costing, and the service costing, which for me, I do believe and convinced that there must always be a question on that particular topic because of the percentage or the weighting that has been graded or given on that particular topic. Also, when you look at standard costing, when you look at standard costing and variance analysis, it has been given 10%. Material costing has been given 10%. You look at labor costing has been given 10%. Accounting for overheads has been given 10%. I do believe, again, you should expect questions. So in short, topic weightings are there to help a student to know. In short, the topic weightings are there to help a student to know which topics to spend time on when preparing for DA5. Now, let us move to exam format. It is important for a student to know how the exam paper or examination paper is structured. So I want to quickly help you to know how the paper is structured, how DA5 paper is structured. DA5 paper has only two sections, Section A and Section B. Section A has got 10 multiple compulsory questions carrying 2 marks each. The total marks you expect there is 20 marks. Okay? And then Section B, we have 5 questions and the student is expected to choose only 4 questions, each carrying 20 marks, so that at the end of the exam, you have the 100%. So that is the structure of DA5. And we do expect that whoever is planning to sit for this paper should be able to understand, should be able to check through the past papers and know how the paper is structured. So that is exam format of DA5. Let me quickly take you to the recommended readings or recommended textbooks that you can use for this particular paper. You can use a DA5 textbook. That is very much helpful. You can use Drury 2008 7th edition. That is very helpful. You can also use T-Lucy 2008 7th edition. Those books will be of great help if you are to use those books to prepare for DA5 examinations. Let's see now look at the approach to the paper. This is very important. On the approach to the paper, I'm going to look at things that a student is expected to do before the exam. There are things that we expect a student to do before the exam. And these things are very important because, as you're aware, failing an exam starts from outside the exam. So it is quite important that you understand these things that you must do before you go to any exam center. The number one thing that a student is expected to do is, of course, to study through the entire syllabus, which, of course, I've already explained. So as a student, we expect you to go through the exam paper, to go through the entire syllabus for you to be ready to write this paper. If you are going to go through the entire syllabus, I do believe, and I'm 100% sure, that you'll be able to make it in this examination. That is very important. Number 2, you should be able to pay attention to the weightings, like I've earlier explained. Weightings are there to help you to know the topics you must focus on. Of course, you have to study through the entire syllabus, but there are topics that you must spend more time on. And those topics, like I indicated earlier on, is the cost applications, where you find the process costing, the service costing, the contract costing, the job and the batch costing. That is number 1 topic. Now, the second topic you should spend much time on is standard costing and variance analysis. You should also spare more time on material costing, labor costing, and overheads. When you spend more time on those, I do believe and trust that you'll be able to make it in this DA5 examination. And then number 3, you must revise by means of using examination past papers. That is very important. We see a lot of students when they are preparing for exams, we see them using, the textbook. We see them using examples from the textbook. My advice to you is that use the examination past papers to revise. That is very key. Because when you use examination past papers to revise, I do believe that you'll be able to understand the examiner's approach. You'll be able to understand the phrasing of the questions. You'll be able to know also how some questions on particular topics are phrased. So that is very important. After that, you must read it through the examiner's report. Again, on that one, we see a lot of students not taking advantage of the examiner's report. It is important. Okay. We see a lot of students not taking advantage of the examiner's report. My advice to you is that try to spare even an hour just to go through the examiner's report. It is in the examiner's report where we put comments on how students performed on each and every questions. It is where we do bring out the points on the mistakes students made in the previous exam. It is in the examiner's report where we even explain how a particular question could have been approached by a student. So it is important that you spare enough time just to go through the examiner's report. That is very key. After that, you must be able to read through the examiner's approach. Try to understand the examiner's approach. Try to know the examiner's approach when it comes to exam. After that, have adequate time to revise. Now, this requires a lot of planning. You need to plan how the syllabus will be covered. How many months are you going to take to cover the entire syllabus? Because at the end of it all, we want you to revise, we want you to leave enough time for the revisions, and that is very important. If you not revise, I do believe you will not be able to do a good job in your exams. Revision is very critical, and you must make sure that you leave enough time for revisions. That is very important. And finally, go to the exam center in good time. At least be at the exam center 40 minutes before exam starts. That is very important. It's just going to do you good. You are going to relax. You are going to be ready and relaxed as you wait for the invigilator to bring the examination paper. I'm now moving to common mistakes. We have seen that a lot of students, they do make a lot of mistakes. Now, I want to just quickly point out some of the mistakes that a lot of students make. That is before the examination and also during the examination. Because you can also make mistakes before even the exam starts, and you can also make mistakes during the exam. So I'm going to talk about the pre-examination mistakes and also the mistakes that are made by a lot of students during exam. Number one mistake students make is failure to understand the question requirement. This is very important. Failure to understand the question requirement. When you are given the question paper and you have already selected the question to start with, it is important that before you even maybe read through the scenario, you go to the requirement. Read through the requirement. Understand the terminologies that are used in the requirement. That is very important. The second mistake a lot of students make is what we call arithmetic errors or arithmetical errors. These errors are errors that results as a result of failure to add the figures properly, failure to subtract, failure to get the correct figure. So it is important that you minimize on the arithmetical errors. That is very important. I'm saying that because this paper, it's more to do with calculations or rather computations. So it's important that as a student, you try by all means to minimize these arithmetical errors. That is very key. Number three, failure to show workings. Again, we have seen that a lot of students don't show workings. It's important that as you are answering the questions, the computation parts of the question, you show the workings. This is very important. Why? Because there are some marks which are awarded just for the workings. So if you leave out those workings, then you are losing out those marks which you could have gotten. So it's important that you show the workings as you are presenting your answer.
Take your career prospects to the next level with Zika.
Our diploma in accountancy is an essential qualification if you're planning on entering the accounting profession.
The Zika tax program at both certificate and diploma level equips you with an enhanced understanding of the field of taxation.
Our diploma in public sector financial management is ideal for accountants or trainee accountants working in the public sector.
And CA Zambia, a respected designation designed to ensure that graduates are highly trained to hold senior positions in the workplace.
You can study through flexible options like self-study as well as part-time or full-time through our accredited tuition providers.
Zika sponsors the top CA Zambia graduate to the One Young World Summit for Young Leaders and also offers scholarships to the top university accountancy graduates from recognized universities.
Visit zika.co.zm now for more information or find us on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Don't delay, your future awaits.
The other point is failure to study through the syllabus, like I have already indicated. Make sure that as you are preparing for the paper, make sure that you go through the entire syllabus. The reason for that is you as a student, you don't know which topic the lecturer or the examiner will basically bring in the exam. So it is important that you study through the entire syllabus so that you are 100% ready for the exam. Apart from that, failure to select topics to revise on. That again is a very big mistake. Remember, I've already given you the weightings of all the topics that are in DA5. And those weightings, like I indicated earlier on, they do help you to know which topic is the most important. Of course, we are not saying all the topics are not important. All the topics are very important, but there are topics which are more important. So we must make sure that we revise through those topics. Those topics with very high weightings. Like I indicated, the cost application, the standard costing and variance analysis, material costing, labor costing, and overheads. That is very important. Another common mistake a lot of students make is failure to identify easy questions in exam. To pass an exam, it's not about you attempting difficult questions. It's always important that when you are given an exam paper, within that reading time, the 15 minutes that you are given, read through and try to identify the easy parts in the exam, because it is those easy parts in the exam that will give you the marks that you are looking for. So let's make sure that we identify those easy parts of the examination paper and go for those questions. It's always advisable that you start with easy parts of the question. Let's say, for example, you are given a question paper or a question which has got, let's say, 3 sections. Section A, Section B, and Section C. And when you look at these 3 sections or requirements, you will find that maybe they are not linked somehow. If they are not linked, then what you can do is that you can even begin with, let's say, part B, if part B seems to be much easier for you. Or you can begin with part C if you think part C is much easier for you before you even come to part A of the question. Because all that we want is to make sure that we grab or we get the marks that we need to pass this paper. Another mistake that a lot of students make, that is before exam and during exam, is lack of planning. Planning is very important. If you are given a question paper, for example, you need to use that 15 minutes reading time you are given to plan on how you will answer the questions. Use that 15 minutes to plan also the question you will start with. Remember, I indicated that this paper has got two sections, Section A and Section B. Now, since we are looking at getting easy marks first, we need to check which section is more simpler. We can basically start with Section B, or you can start with Section A, depending on the area which is more easier for you. Because all that we need is to make sure that we get that 50% that we are looking for to pass this paper. So please plan how you will cover the syllabus, plan how you'll be able to handle the paper once you are given the paper in the examination room. That is very key. And lastly, you must be able to plan your time well. Again, this is very, very critical. This is very key. Time management is very important. We have seen again a lot of students failing to finish the exam. The paper is only for 3 hours. Okay. So on the time management, the paper is only for 3 hours. And in that 3 hours, we expect you to get 100%. Now, what does this mean? What it basically means is that each mark will have 1.8 minutes. So for you to get 1 mark, you should spend 1.8 minutes, which means that for a question carrying 20 marks, we expect a student to spend 36 minutes. Now, you can only spend that 36 minutes if there is proper planning, there is proper time management. Because if you just fail to manage your time well in exam, I do believe you will not be able to finish the exam. And when you fail to finish the exam, you are reducing the chances of passing the paper. Imagine you only answer, let's say, 4 questions, which is 80%. And the other person answers all the 5 questions required in this paper, which is 100%. Who stands a better chance to pass? I do believe it's a student who has answered all the questions in the paper. So it is important, please, that you plan your time well. You manage your time well. So that is, those are some of the mistakes that a lot of students make. And we don't want you to make those mistakes as you prepare for this paper. So please, let's make sure that we go through these points that I've just given you. One, who have gone through, which every student we believe that has gone through grade 1 to grade 12, and we have learned how to present our work properly. So I do believe that and trust that in the coming exam, you'll be able to present your answers in a very good handwriting. That is very important. All that just makes it much easier for the marker to see your work and award you the marks that you deserve. So it is important, please, that we try by all means to improve on the handwriting. That is very important. And lastly, it is important, please, that you leave at least 10 minutes before the end of exam, just to read through the requirements once again. You read through the requirements and also the responses that you have given, so that you just have to make sure that the requirements and the responses that you have given are correlating, because you might, as you go through, you might just find that some answers that you have given are not maybe in line with the questions that you have been given. So it's important, please, that you leave at least 10 minutes before ending the exam. So that is very key. And lastly, I want us just to quickly go through some of the examination questions. I want to just try and learn you through some of the questions. I have questions on Section A, and I have questions also on Section B. Remember, I indicated to you that this paper has been structured with 2 sections. We have Section A and we have Section B. And Section A, we have 10 multiple compulsory questions, and all those questions must be answered. And we have Section B, where you have 5 questions, and you are expected only to answer 4 questions carrying 20 marks each. So let me start by running you through the multiple choice questions, which is from section A. And the first question I want us to look at, it's coming from the cost behavior. And the question reads, the following information relates it to output levels and corresponding overhead costs for Bland Limited for the past 4 months is as follows. We have been given the output in terms of number of units. We have also been given the overheads, which are basically the total overhead costs for January, August, September, and October. And the requirement reads, using the ILO method of cost estimation, fixed monthly overhead costs are estimated to be, so there is A, 50,000 kwacha, B, 245,000 kwacha, C, 45,000 kwacha, and D, 65,000 kwacha. Now, the approach here is that you must be able to remember from the cost behavior that you can only work out the fixed cost by you understanding the ILO method. Now, how is ILO method done? ILO method requires you to work out, first of all, the variable cost per unit. And how is the variable cost per unit determined? You have to get the highest cost, you subtract the lowest cost. The answer you get, you divide that by the difference between the highest units and the lowest units. And that will give you the variable cost per unit that you need. And once that is done, you can work out the fixed cost that is being asked in the question. Now, how do we get the fixed cost being asked in the question? Is by us remembering that fixed cost can be calculated by subtracting the total variable cost from the total cost. And we will be able to get the answer that the examiner is looking for. That is question 1. Let's move to question 2 quickly. 2 reads, prime cost is calculated as, so again here, this question is coming from cost behavior. This question is coming from cost behavior. So it is important that you understand first of all what prime cost is. Prime cost is basically all the direct costs, which basically includes the direct material cost, direct labor cost, and direct expenses. So if you check through the answers indicated in the question, if you check through the answers that are indicated in the question, we have A, they are saying direct materials plus direct labor. B, we have direct materials plus direct labor plus direct expenses. C, direct labor plus direct expenses. D, we have direct materials plus direct labor plus factory overheads. Now, when you look at all these things, I do believe and I'm convinced that someone who can be able to define what prime cost is, like I've already stated, prime cost is the total of all direct costs, which means here that the correct answer is B, where they have indicated direct materials plus direct labor plus direct expenses. That is question 2 from the past paper. Question 3. Question 3 reads, Jomo Limited operates an incentive scheme to pay its workers. Workers will be paid based on a piece rate. In brackets, they have indicated number of units produced, or 70% of pay based on the hourly rate, whichever is higher. The company produces one product, AB12, and the standard time to make this product is 7 minutes. For the purpose of the piecework, calculations each minute is valued at 0.08 kwacha. The following information relates to one worker, and we have been given the hours worked, 41 hours, the rate of pay per hour, 9.05 kwacha. we have been given the units of AB12 produced 447. And the requirement says the company that the pay that the worker will receive is calculated as. So here we must first of all know where this, which topic this question is coming from. So this topic is coming from what we call labor costing. So for someone who has studied through labor costing should be able to answer this question. And all that you need is to know whether this worker they are talking about is on a permanent or is a casual worker, or the work that is being done is piecework, which in this case, we are looking at piecework. And in terms of the calculations, all you need is to get the hours worked, which is the 41, which you are going to multiply by the rate per hour, which is 9.05 kwacha. And whatever answer you will get, you can get 70% of that, and you'll be able to get the correct answer. Let's move to question 4. Question 4 reads, Baba Limited had actual production for the month of February of 37,100 units, and there was an over-absorption of 20,400. Budgeted overheads were 204,050 kwacha, and the budgeted production was 29,150 units. The actual fixed production overhead incurred for the month of February was, so they want us to work out the actual fixed production overhead incurred for the month. Now, like I indicated earlier on, it's always important that before you even start answering, you should know where the question, which topic the question is coming from. Which in this case, this particular question, it's coming from overhead analysis. And they want us to use that knowledge that we have acquired on overhead analysis to work out the actual fixed production overheads. So all that you need here is to begin the question by first of all working out what we call the overhead absorption rate. And once you have that overhead absorption rate, I do believe you will be able to get the correct answer by following all the processes that are required that you have acquired from the overhead analysis topic. Question 5. On question 5, the question reads, Stars Suppliers Limited uses the economic order quantity to determine the amount of inventory to purchase. The following details have been extracted from the company accounting system. We have been given the demand per month of 50,700. We have been given the cost of purchase, 1 unit of product, 8 kwacha. The cost of placing an order of 25 kwacha. The cost of holding 1 unit of inventory for 1 year is 1% of purchase cost. And the requirements reads, calculate the economic order quantity and round off the answer to O number. That is the requirement. Now, again, you must know where this topic is coming from. It must click in your head. This question, which topic is it coming from? So this topic is coming from what we call material costing. And they want us to work out the economic order quantity. How is economic order quantity calculated? All that you need is to remember the formula, which is the square root of 2COD divided by CH, which is the holding cost. So you need to identify those elements in the question and slot those in the formula, and you'll be able to get the answer. Now, when you look at the question here, they have not given us the cost of holding 1 unit. And that is where the tricky part is. They have just indicated in the question that the cost of holding 1 unit of inventory for 1 year is 1% of the purchase cost. So the starting point there is for you to work out the holding cost. And how do you work out the holding cost? Is by getting 1% of the purchase price or the purchase cost of 1 unit, which is 8 kwacha. And after that, you have all the variables or elements that are needed. Throw those things into the formula and you'll be able to get the correct answer. Let's move to question 6. Question 6 reads, a company had 30 direct employees at the beginning of last year and 20 direct production employees at the end of the year. During the year, a total of 15 direct production employees had left the company to join for a local competitor. What is the labor turnover rate for last year? So this question is coming from labor costing. So again, a student who has gone through labor costing should be able to calculate the labor turnover rate. Remember, labor turnover rate is calculated by getting the replacement divided that by the total or the average number of employees. And how can that be done in this particular case? Is by you knowing the replacement number of employees, which in this case, if you check, we started with 30 direct employees, and at the end of the year, we have 20 direct production employees, and they have indicated that 15 left. So in that case, we only remain with the 5 employees. We only replaced 5 employees, and that 5 employees, we can divide that by the average number of employees. How do we get the average number of employees? Is by getting the number of employees that we started with, we add the number of employees that we ended with, which in this case, it's 30 plus 20 divided by 2. So to get the labor turnover in this case, all you need is to get the replacement number, which is 5 employees, divided by the average number of employees, which is 25, and you multiply that by 100 to get the rate, and you have the correct figure. Well, let's move to question 7. On question 7, the question reads, which of the following would be appropriate cost units for a passenger coach company? We have been given number 1, vehicle cost per passenger kilometer. Number 2, we have been given the fuel cost for each vehicle per kilometer. Number 3, we have been given the fixed cost per kilometer. And on the answers, we have 1 only, that's CA. B, we have 1 and 2 only. C, we have 1 and 3 only. And D, we have 2 and 3 only. So in this case, the correct answer there is B, which is 1 and 2 only. The vehicle cost per passenger kilometer and the fuel cost per each vehicle per kilometer. That is question 7. On question 8, the question reads, in process costing, how are abnormal losses valued? So the starting point here, like I've already indicated, is to know exactly where this topic, which topic is this question coming from? This question is coming from what we call process costing. And under process costing, we are told how to value abnormal losses. We are told how to value abnormal gain. We are told how to value normal losses. Now, the question is specifically on how to value abnormal losses. So the answers that are being given, or options that are there, is A, at the scrap value. B, we have at the same as good production. C, at the cost of raw materials. D, the same as normal losses. The correct answer here is B, which is the same as good production. So abnormal losses are valued at the same as good production. That is the answer for question 8. Let's quickly move now to question 9. Question 9 reads, which of the following statement is true? A, unit variable costs are constant as the volume increases. B, unit fixed costs are constant as volume increases. C, unit variable cost decreases as volume increases. D, unit fixed cost increases as volume increases. Now, when you look at this question here, it's coming from a topic we call cost behavior. Very important topic. And on cost behavior, that's where we learn what variable cost is and how it behaves, how fixed cost, what fixed cost is and how it behaves. We do learn about step fixed cost and how it behaves, and so on and so forth. Now, this question here, they are focusing on the behavior of variable and fixed cost. So they want us to see or to indicate which statement is true. So if you look at A, they are saying unit variable costs are constant as volume increases. That is very true. We expect the variable cost to remain constant as the level of production increases. So variable cost per unit is always constant regardless of the level of production, or it is constant as the level of production increases. When you look at part B, they are saying unit fixed costs are constant as volume increases. Unit fixed costs are constant as volume increases. That is not true. A fixed cost per unit is never constant when there is an increase in the level of production. We expect the fixed cost per unit to reduce as the level of activity increases. So that is not true. So B is out. C, they're saying unit variable cost decreases as a volume increases. Remember that variable cost per unit or unit variable cost always remains constant at whatever level. Whether there is an increase or decrease in the level of production, we expect the variable cost per unit to remain constant. So that statement is not true. D, unit fixed cost increases as a volume increases. Remember that the fixed cost per unit does not increase as the volume increases. Fixed cost per unit reduces or decreases as the level of activity increases. So again, part D is not the correct answer. The question is, what is the correct answer? The correct answer is part A, where they have indicated unit variable costs are constant as volume increases. Number 10. Number 10 reads, and this is the last question on the multiple choice question. A manufacturing company operates a standard absorption costing system. Last month, 25,000 production hours were budgeted, and budgeted fixed production overhead cost was 125,000 kwacha. Last month, the actual hours worked were 24,000 hours, and the standard hours for actual production were 27,000. What was the fixed production overhead capacity variance for last month? So again, like I've been saying, the starting point is know exactly where this question is coming from. Know the topic where this question is coming from. That is very helpful. This question is coming from what we call standard costing and variance analysis, where you learn how to calculate the variances and how to state whether the variance is favorable or adverse, which is very important. So what they want us to work out here is a variance called fixed production overhead capacity variance, which a lot of students confuse with fixed production overhead efficiency variance. Now, looking at the scenario given here, all that you need to do is to get the budgeted hours that you planned to use to produce the units, which is 25,000 hours, and you compare those hours to the actual hours worked to the standard hours for the actual production, which is the 27,000 hours. So 27,000 minus 25,000 minus 27,000, that will give you 2,000 hours, which is adverse. Now, that answer you have gotten, it is in hours, and we don't leave variances in hours. So what are you supposed to do? What you are supposed to do is the 20 marks you got from section A, you have 60 marks. So you can see that passing this paper, it's very, very easy. So that is, please, the things that you must know. We have come to the end of the presentation. I just believe and trust that This presentation will be of great help to you. You have learned something from this presentation. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.